What's up, you beautiful people? I am Lee Williamson and I'm a motion designer. Recently I did a animation challenge where me and a bunch of other animators would take old vintage designs, posters, book covers, records, and bring them to life. I created a tutorial just to show you the design that I was given and how I approached animating it. I hope you enjoy this, because I really did. So the first step was to get some reference material because, well, I can't ski. So I went on YouTube and I found this guy called Gellie who had this really cool lesson on skiing. And what was perfect is it was nice to loop because the guy would ski from the left to the right and back to the left again, which was the perfect loop. And I'll just show you what it looked like. Left, and then ski right, and left again. So I could see the perfect loop to use on there. So thank you so much, Tom, for that reference. Amazing. Right, so I'm going to drag that reference material that I got in. And I know that I want this to last for 10 seconds. So I'm going to look for a point where the animation, let's say it starts on the left like this. That's going to be my beginning. Then it's going to go right. Then it's going to go left, then it's going to go right one more time, and yeah, I think that's more than enough. So I've got the perfect loop there. Let's just say that's 11 seconds there, right? More likely want to finish it before that, but that should be good. And then I'm going to find the poster that I want to animate, and I'm going to drag that poster in. And I'm going to bring that poster to 10 seconds because that's kind of where my animation is now going to go from this to this. That poster is also, the animation is supposed to be 1080 by 1350. Okay. If I can click on my poster, I'm just going to right click it, transform, and fit it to fit it to height. Transform, fit to height. Right, so I've got to find a way now of having that animation match up with that shot there on 10 seconds, and then I can get those 3 seconds just to read the word skiing in France. So that's great. So now I've got my reference, both my reference material, the poster that I'm going to animate, and how my animation is going to animate. Now, as you can see, the skis are missing there, so I'll just bring this up higher. So the picture's roughly in the middle for that shot. Right, that's good. And the next step is I don't want to create a rigged character. I want to create something that would conform better to the shape of this image. So I'm literally going to draw paths for everything. So I'll show you how I start. I'm going to go to the poster itself and I'm going to change its color drop the color fill of that poster, and I'm going to get a stroke, put that up to about 40. I don't actually know what it is, and then just click on the same color as the black of the stroke. And my strokes might be too thick, but we'll see how it goes. I'm going to now use my Bezier tool now that I've chosen those two colors. And I'm going to try and keep my path really, really simple. So start at the top, go to the knee, down to the bottom, close it off there, and then behind the knee and back up. So that's a really easy path to edit. And then I can press T on my keyboard and just bring the opacity down, just so I can see what that leg actually looks like. All right, then I'm going to press UU on the keyboard and click on the stopwatch for my path. And now I'm going to move the whole entire path. You can select the whole thing and drag it over there, and then just manually move each part of the body to where the position of this foot is. Definitely looks like my outlines on my strokes are way too thick. There we go. It's really that simple. If I take my reference material and maybe put the opacity down rather of this. That would probably be a better way to approach it. Right, and say new solid, and just have the solid that's white behind the video reference material, so I can see what I'm doing. Really up to you to decide how you want to approach creating your paths. Right, so now you can see that path changing from there to there. What I like to do is to block out a couple of the strongest key moves. So I can go to the beginning, I can drop a keyframe over there and do the same thing. That was the left leg, whoops, up over there. Move these paths over there and move that path over there. And then I can hold shift control on my keyboard and I can jump every 2 seconds and I can update this path again. I'm really not going to show you the whole process because that would be very boring, so I'm just going to give you the guide structure of how to get by on perhaps one shape, and then I'll add all the shapes at the end so you can see the end result. And then I can go again. Actually, you know what, the best approach would probably be taking the key poses. When I say the key poses, it's kind of like where the motion slows down the most. On the far left you got one, and then on the far right it's about, let's do that 3 seconds. Yeah, that's a really nice sharp key pose there. And don't be scared about making any mistakes or just manually keep pulling it around until you're actually happy with that. So now you'll notice that keyframe goes from 2 seconds to 3 seconds, and then maybe find another key pose. It looks like it kind of slows down on 5 seconds nicely, so I'm going to go for that as another key pose. Where was that knee? There. Okay, so if you aren't happy with the transitions, you really can just keep adding keyframes. So what I tend to do once I've done that is I can just say Control Shift right, and I can change up my key pose again and keep going. That, Control Shift right, do another one up there. Looks like the knee's up there now. Okay, it looks like the leg kind of disappears behind there. So you can get the idea. So literally just add a keyframe every 10 frames and you'll get the perfect path that'll move there. Let's fast forward to that leg being done. And bing, through the magic of editing, it's complete. So as you see, just every 10 frames I've drawn just change the shape of that path, and then right at the end I've got at least a second where it transitions from that leg into the leg of the poster where I want him to stop there. Really simple. My only advice here is to make sure that your paths are incredibly simple, and when I mean simple I mean as many now you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 points. Try keep those points as low as possible. Don't end up with, say, 20 points. Keep them simple. You know, the knee joint, the top of the leg, the bottom of the leg. That'll be 10 times then easier for you to be able to move the path around and edit that. And now I'm going to show you all the paths done. Now this had taken a bit of time, so it is quite time consuming. And here we go, we've got the beginnings of a body with full movements, and that technique I've showed you is just pretty much done for everything, the legs, the feet, the hands, everything. If I press UU on the keyboard, you can just see that the keyframes are pretty much identical. There may be some paths here that I didn't keyframe because they actually didn't require it, but yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. And then, as you can see there, I then just merged that into that final shot there. And see, I felt I had more control over that shape and the fluidity of the animation by doing the paths as opposed to something that was rigged. Next, I created a ski pole for my character to hold in his hand. As you notice, as the character comes to the poster final frame, that ski pole turns upside down in his hand. Now, the problem I had is when I created the stick, it's a path. So I wanted to attach the circle, the bottom of the ski, to that path, right? So what I could do to do so is, it's only got 2 points in the path, which is great. I'm going to go click on the path itself. So you have to actually highlight the path itself, and then you go Window, Create Nulls from Paths, and you can choose Nulls from Points. And it's going to create 2 nulls, one for the bottom, one for the top. For the bottom, we don't need it because we want it to attach to the bottom of the pole. So I'm going to take this circle, I'm going to use my pick whip over here, and I'm going to parent it to the null over there. Great. Now that circle is attached to the bottom of the pole all the time. When it's skiing, he's skiing, and then right at the end it comes straight to that final shot, just the way we like. The only thing left to do really is to make sure that this goes under the hand really. So I'm just going to drag this to the very bottom. And there we go. It's fully parented to the tip of that stick. Right, so in this scene, I've just created a hat, and this hat on his head, and this bobble. Now, let me just solo those and turn the bobble off. This hat is really just a path following the head of the character. Now the thing is, I wanted the bobble to follow the hat. So this hat has 3 points, right? And it looks like that's the top of the hat. So that's kind of what I want to parent the bubble to. So I'm going to do the very same technique that I did with the skis, where I'm going to click on my path, my hat paths. I'm going to go Window, Create Nulls, Nulls from Points, and it's going to create me 3 points, 3 nulls, and I'm going to delete the other ones that I don't need. So it's really just that one that's now attached itself, this null has attached itself to the hat. So all I need to do is now take that bobble over here and parent it to that hat null. And now that bobble has disappeared. That's great. So where is the eye on that thing? Sorry, I solarized that. Okay, cool. So there it is. And now you should see the bubble travels pretty much wherever this goes. It looks like it doesn't work quite there, so I might just looks like I actually animated the bubble at some point. Let's just delete that keyframe. Don't know why I did that. Okay, that's great. That's following it perfectly. And then what I can do is I can just manually move this a little bit closer to the hat, and that should follow it quite nicely. Now, the next thing is it doesn't feel quite realistic for me. So, because this character is going to be going down a hill, and that bobble should be wiggling away with the hat. So that's a cool one I can do. I can press R on the bobble and Alt click on the rotation and go wiggle 25, 50. And you should get a nice little wiggle now as the hat is on the character's head as it's going down the hill. And that's now the thing is, when we get to the end where the poster is, I don't want that hat to bubble anymore. So I can resolve that. I can put down a slider. Okay, I'm going to drag a slider control onto the bubble hat, and I'm going to press Control D. I'm going to duplicate that. So I'm going to retype these values here, 25 That's for this value over here, and 50 for that value on the right. Okay. And now I'm going to highlight the 25, and I'm going to parent that to the first slider, and I'm going to highlight the 50 and parent that value to the slider. Okay, so now at the end I can keyframe these sliders to go to 0. So I've just now put a click on the stopwatch for both of them. I can press U on my keyboard, so let's try E on my keyboard, and I can jump a couple of frames before, and I can just set these sliders to 0. So now that bubble has this. Actually, I've just done that in reverse order. Please forgive me on that one. U on the keyboard. Take this and right click and keyframe assistant and time reverse. Okay, cool. So now we've got this bobbling away here, and then it goes down to 0 and does not bobble anymore as the character comes to a slowdown. So your sliders are keyframed to 0. And then what you get is, let's take this out of being solarized now. It's that lovely little bobbling hat. This hat could be a lot more realistic, so I want to see what I can do with that. So I'm going to pre-compose the bobble and the hat and that null that's attaching the bubble to that. So I'm going to press Ctrl-Shift-C, and let's just call this composition hat. And I'm going to go inside the hat, and I'm just going to crop this animation. Let's see how much it's traveling. Okay, I'm going to crop it pretty wide. Now the reason I'm cropping it is because I'm going to add a wave warp on it, and I want the displacement only to happen to this area. Let's just see if that fits. Yeah, I'm cool with that. And then I'm going to go to composition, crop to region of interest, and then I'm going to go back to my other frame, and I'm just going to bring that hat back to its position. And hopefully that should line up roughly in the right place. Okay, that's cool. I'm okay with that. Now I'm going to go into that composition with the hat, and I'm just going to add an adjustment layer, and I'm going to call it, look under my effects presets and get wave warp. I'm going to drop a wave warp in there. If I press space on my keyboard now, you can see this lovely wave warp, which is way too slow. So I'm going to set it up to maybe 5. Yeah, that's lovely and fast. And I'm going to set the pinning down to bottom edge, right, so that the wave only happens at the top, which is successfully not working. So I need to change the direction to 180, right? Okay, now you should get the wave only happening at the top. Great. Okay, and maybe I can adjust this height to being, or width to being slightly different. Does it have to be so high? Is 10 okay? You know, maybe 10 is all right. Let's have a look and see what it looks like. Okay, so maybe half the waves that are happening on that wave warp. Let's just call this wave warp so I know what the heck it is. And change my wave height to perhaps 20. No, actually it's doubling it up. Okay, so now what you get is just not such a big wave. Okay, and I'm okay with that. Now you just got a little bit more speed to that movement with that hat bobbling on his head. Right, so I've added some more details now. The same technique that I used to animate the bobbling hat, I've done to his jacket, so it wiggles at the back. And I've added the other ski pole and a bunch of detail on his jumper. So pretty much the same methods that I've already showed you, as well as like reflection on these goggles and some blinking eyes. So the next step would be to add some kind of a secondary animation to really feel the speed like he's coming down in that hill. So if we go back to this original video over here, he's skiing down a hill. So first of all, if you look closely, you'll have these ski treads coming out the side of his skis that should emphasize him really digging into the snow there. So I really want to do that part first. So it goes on and then comes off there. That looks about like, I'd say about 2 seconds worth. So let's do that. All right, I'm gonna turn that video off. Actually, no, turn it on for now. I need that as guidance. And I'm gonna take my path and I'm gonna go all the way to where it's already drawn on. And I'm literally just gonna draw that tread there. Okay, and if I turn off, I'm just going to find out where it starts. Okay, it starts about there. Okay, so let's just call this tread and turn off that guided video for now. Now we can make the tread same color as the shadow because I don't want the tread to be too dark, and I'm going to put the tread below the ski man. Red. Okay, press UU on the keyboard and I'm going to go to add over here, click that and choose trim paths, and that's how I'm going to animate that stroke on and off. So it starts here, so I'm going to drop a keyframe here and put it on 0. And then I'm going to go 15 frames, so Control Shift forward, and then hold Control forward, 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 another 5 frames. So that's 15 frames. Okay, and then I'm going to put that value, the end value, to 100. So that should animate it on. Turn that music off. Animate on, and then at 5 seconds, that's 2 seconds later, I'm gonna drop in another keyframe on the start position and do 5 frames over there. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna animate out that stroke going off at the end, and that's gonna be up to 100. Okay, so now it should draw on and draw off. And then what we could do is put some easing on it as well. That's fine. I really don't think I need to go any further into my curve editor. I think it's quite simple. Okay, that's great. And then what I'm going to do is that tread, I will then just copy and paste to other places where it's the tread is also having on the other ski. So now if I go back to my original video, just solarize that there. The next one happens here. So I'm gonna Control C, Control V, and then press my left bracket and move it over to that point there. And then all I need to do is press UU on my keyboard and take my paths, and I'm going to line up the path to that ski. And just let's see if I can find where that tread is. It looks like it's kind of going over his shoulder up there, I reckon. So we can twist that path around until it gets to his shoulder. Okay, cool. So now we should have that ski coming out there. Okay. So now that I'm sure you've noticed, the other thing is that the tread doesn't quite follow the ski anymore. So we can resolve that. We could just manually animate those parts, or we can do the other method I showed before, where you use your nulls to parent to the points of the path. But really, I don't think that's really necessary. I think we can just manually animate it because it's such a short little point here. Okay, so I'm going to turn that off and just see how it lines up. There we go, that comes on there. Here we go. Okay, so press UU on the keyboard. I'm going to turn the clock on my path and put another keyframe down there. There it's lined up already. Here it's not lined up. So all I need to do is move that point over there and there. In fact, we could probably make it fairly straight. That way it just sits. Oh, and also just add the same easing that I had before to the other frames. Now it should follow the ski perfectly fine and then disappear off. And that we can pretty much duplicate that ski behind the ski treads behind every ski. Okay, that works. That's great. And now I've just added that tread to each ski. The next step is I feel like it doesn't feel like it's really hitting hard when the skis go in. You know, it's almost as if you may have some snow chopping out the corners of the ski. So I'll show you how I approach that one. I'm going to go and choose a polygon tool, and I'm going to draw myself a polygon. In fact, I'm going to make sure that it's just the fill that I want for this one. And I'm going to make sure that that fill is going to be the same color as the shadow once again. And I'm going to turn the stroke off. Okay, cool. So I'm going to call this snow maybe. Yeah. And then if you notice my corner anchor isn't in the right place, so I'm just going to press Control Shift Home. Control Alt Home. Yes, Control Alt Home. And I'm just going to make this cyan. Okay. So I'd like that to kind of fall off the ski over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press P on my keyboard to get my positions. I'm going to right click, separate dimensions, and I'm just going to animate the Y value first. So if I click on the Y, jump some keyframes forward, put another value in there, and in the middle I'm just going to make the diamond go up. Okay, so we just got the diamond going up like this. In fact, let me just solarize that for now, so you can just see the diamond. Okay, I'm going to select all the keyframes and press F9, and then I'm going to go into my curve manager so I can see my curve. Then I'm just going to click on those corners and pull these arms down. That, and I'm going to delete that middle one now. So you should have this go up nicely. It's also beneficial to make sure that both these arms are roughly the same length. So you just get that smooth up and down. Okay, cool. So that pops up nicely. The next step is that I want it to feel like it's coming out of the ski from left to right. So I'm going to press on my keyframe on my X position on both sides, and I'm going to now unsolarize that again. And I'm just going to move that out. Okay, so that now it should pop out. Okay, that's great. I'm happy with that. You don't need to add some curves to your X values, just your Y values, because you want to go up and down. And to sell that better, if you press R on your keyboard and you add a rotation to that. So which way is this going? It's going to be going that way. Okay, so minus. So if I click -1 on that value, that should be 360 degrees. It's going to spin. Okay, it's not -1, it's +1. Okay, Good. Okay, so that's going to spin out. And you may want that to be a little bit faster. So if we do add some easing on there, perhaps it's going to be very fast in the beginning. So we can just turn this down, and boom, should spin out. In fact, actually, I'm not happy with that. I actually don't think that needs easing at all in that one. That's fine. Okay, and then your scale value, because you want this snow to actually kind of go from nothing to something. So we are going to put a keyframe in the middle as well when it's at its biggest size. And when it's first coming out, we're going to put that on 0. So it goes from nothing to something, and then back to nothing again, which is on 0. Okay, so it should pop up and disappear, pop up and disappear. In fact, we could probably just make that value like 20 perhaps, so at least it almost goes, pop straight in. And then what we can do is we can just crop it rather, so that when you come in on that first frame, you actually see something straight away rather than waiting from that, going from 0 to 100. You got to go from 20 to 100, so that at least there's something physically seen on the screen, if that makes sense. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-compose this, and let's just call it snow. Okay, I'm going to go inside there, and I'm going to bring that all the way to the left by pressing my left bracket. Okay, and then what we can do is we could stack it up. We press Control-C, Control-V on the keyboard, and I'm going to move it forward a little bit. So one pops up, and then the next one pops up afterwards. In fact, maybe a little bit further forward. Okay, so boom, boom. Okay, yeah, I'm happy with that. And then I don't want it to be following the same path as the other one, so we can also change that. Now we want it to come at the same point of the ski, so let's not change that, but maybe that would be nicer to go a little bit further away. So we can change the X value to, who knows, a little bit closer to there, so that kind of falls a bit closer to the ski. And perhaps we can also make the Y value of how high it's flying either lower or higher. So let's take those values and bring them a lot lower. And now at least you got some variation in the ski. And then you can do the same thing again, just keep doubling up and make another ski until you've got a whole bunch of snowflakes all cascading over the top of each other. I'm going to come out of this, and I'm just going to show you where my ski is for placement purposes. Okay, so the ski comes up, and that's when it's about to ski. So perhaps we can have the particles happening just before the ski treads, and then the ice is going to fly out of the ski tread like that. Boom. Cool. I'm just going to add a couple of more and fast forward ahead and show you how we can place it next. Okay, so I've added a bunch of more particles on that ski, so you get that idea of a harder impact when it turns around that corner. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to press Control-D on my keyboard, and I'm going to duplicate that animation to over here. Okay. And since it's going the opposite direction, I can just press S on my keyboard, unlock this, and put a -100. And what it'll do is it'll flip it the other way around. And then I can just move that to where the ski is. So, okay, I want the particles to come out the corner of that ski over there. And boom, comes out there. Boom, comes out there. And one more time over here. Okay, so I can just press Control-D on my keyboard and drag another copy to this corner here. I can move this down there. Cool. So now what we should get is some particles there, some particles there, and some particles there. And then when he comes to a stop over here, it's going to be a heavy break there. So we might want to put some particles right there at the front. So I'm going to move another copy near the front and change that scale back to positive 100. I'm going to move it up in front of his skis because now it's at the front of his skis where he pauses. Bang, like that. And I think that ski break's going to be so abrupt, I can pretty much double on that. So I'm going to press Control D, move it slightly forward, and maybe move it a little bit down, and really give more particles in that. In fact, I can duplicate that again and add some over here. And that really gets that nice impact of a lot of ice. Now, you might also want to try something like taking one of these particles and putting them on multiply so that you can see the particles over each other. Just kind of gives it a little bit more dimension. Otherwise, they'd all be blue. And who knows, maybe you can put another one on screen. Let's see what screen does. Screen, screen, screen. Screen. Okay, maybe not screen. Okay, well, you just work on some of the different modes and see what works for you. And then what I can do is I can take that, duplicate those three again, move them up, and I'm going to move this to the other ski. And maybe just move it like one keyframe forward, just so that it doesn't feel like it's all exactly the same. And boom, we've got that nice pause at the end. In fact, it might happen a little bit too early, so maybe he's actually braking like there already. You know, so we want to see that the braking's happening even though he hasn't quite stopped yet. Bang, there we go. That feels like more impactful. Right, so the next step I want to do is add some movement going from bottom to top to get the feeling like this character has been riding on the snow. But also, if you look at snow in this video, there's all these tread marks in the snow as if many other skiers have been on there at the same time. So I wanted to create this kind of chaotic tread mark look in the snow. I'm going to show you how I did that. Here's my final result. And I'll show you how I got there. So firstly, I'm just going to draw a line with my Bezier tool. Let's zoom into that. Press UU on the keyboard, and I'm going to go into my strokes, and I'm going to press plus on my dashes, and I'm just going to pull out those dashes until it goes up to about 600, so that I can see about 2 dashes on my screen. And then to animate those dashes, I'm just going to press Alt click on my offset and type in time asterisk 4000. And now those dashes are animated. And to make more of these lines, I'm going to go into my FX presets and drag an echo onto that. And I'm going to make my echo time 1 and my number of echoes 5. Now the reason you're not seeing the echoes is because I have to animate the path as well from left to right to see the echoes. So if I press click on my paths and I go forward by, let's say, 2 seconds, and I'm just gonna move my path forward like this, so now it's animating forward, and immediately you can start to see the echoes or repetitions of my dashes. But you've noticed two things. First of all, it's going to that place and just stopping there. So I wanted to return back to its original place again. So I'm going to copy and paste the first keyframe forward by 2 seconds. And now it's going to go forward, back, forward. But it's still going to stop at the end. So we need to loop this animation. So I'm going to put in a loop script. Okay, I'm going to press Alt click on my paths, and I'm going to paste that in there, a valueAtTime expression, which I will give to you, do not worry. And now it will play on forever. I don't know if you noticed, but there's this little white that goes over the lines, and that's because it's been set to add. So I'm going to go to my effects operator and change that to maximum. And now I want to make even more of these echoes, but I'm going to approach it differently, just to show you another method. I want to add these, but I want to put them over here and have another 5 on the other side. So instead, I'm going to go into my my properties again, and I'm going to look for something called a repeater. And inside that repeater, just scale down, I'm going to have only 2 copies of that repeater. And then I go into my transform properties and I just widen up the positioning. So now my duplications are further ahead. So now what you should see is the echo effect of the 5 lines, and then a duplication of those 5 lines on the right side as well. Okay, that's quite cool, I like that. And then I can just pick up my whole entire shape layer and move it over to the middle. Now, this is a much cleaner approach to the one that I showed you. So I'm going to show you a little bit of how I got to that place. So if you remember, my previous one was a lot more chaotic looking. So for my one, I could just change the shape of this path. So I'm going to press U on my keyboard, and I'm going to go to my Bezier or my pen tool at the top, and I'm going to change it to convert vertex tool. And all I'm really going to do is, okay, first of all, I can't edit it because I need to turn off the expression that's on the path. So if you go to enable expression and you just click on it, a little line should go through the equal sign there. And now I can just click on my corner with this tool and add these little arms to my paths, and you should get a more of a shape to the way the paths are going. And the more you contort them or mess them up, the more of a, almost like these intersecting lines will appear, where the lines kind of all converge on each other, which sometimes looks nice, sometimes looks a little bit messy. It really depends on how you want to do it. So if I'm just going to press Alt Z and get rid of that, I also want to show you another method that's quite nice. You could also, if you want to keep it clean, is add a wave effect on it, like I've done before. With the wave warp, you put it on top. Let's see how that looks. Okay, so I'm going to make sure my wave warp is on 180 degrees. And then I'm going to make my wave height higher, and then my wave width higher as well. And I'm just going to keep pulling that up until that width is really high, so that I've got just a very small sine wave going. And now you've got the more feeling of going down a hill, I mean turning. You can keep editing this until you get your desired effect. But I've pretty much enabled you with a nice little method that works. And don't forget, as I've showed you here, turn the expression back on again so that it loops forever. And there we go, some movements on the snow. Cool. Now the next step would be to give it a feeling that's closer to the original poster. I don't know if you remember the poster. Let's show you the poster here. It's got all these lovely juddery lines, and I want to kind of get a little bit of that look. I could also imagine, you know, an old school video not running smoothly either, so we can find a way to also deal with that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go File, New, I'm going to File New Adjustment Layer. Okay, and the first one we're going to do is posterizeTime. So this one is going to be frames, yeah, okay, and posterizeTime. Okay, I'm going to drag that on there, and we're going to change this value to 12. So my video is running at 25 frames a second, but this forces the animation to run at 12 frames a second, so you get a more juddery look to it that just removes every second frame basically, so it feels more old school. Okay, as opposed to if I turn this off, look how smooth it looks. Okay, turn it on and it looks more like one of those hand-drawn animations. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add another adjustment layer. This one I'm going to call Boil, and I'm going to add a turbulent displacement on it. Turbulent displace. Try that again. Turbulent displace on there. And I'm going to put its complexity all the way up to 100. Okay. And these values I can put on 12 for mount and size for 2. Okay. So if you look really closely now, turn this on and off, you got this lovely hand-drawn feel going. Now the thing is also when it's moving around, okay, it's going to take a bit of time to load, but you don't see the line work moving, so we can fix that just by animating the time on it. So I can go time asterisk 10,000, and now it should animate that line work. But at some point that line work is going to just stop animating for whatever reason. That time remap, when it comes to an evolution setting on a turbulent displace, it doesn't last forever. So I found a really cool code. Thank you, internet. I'm going to repaste that inside there too. I'll give you this code as well. And these extra numbers over here, this percentage 32768, somehow makes the animation loop the noise as long as you want. Now that noise is now not going the same speed as my posterizeTime, so I can actually also posterizeTime on my expression. So I'm going to type in posterizeTime, and I'm going to change this value to 6. So it's going to make that judderiness of not judder too smoothly. And you should get this lovely texture going now on all of your lovely paths. Probably a lot harder to see. Okay, so the next one is to add some noise grain into your video footage. So I'm going to do it again, File New, an adjustment layer, and this one we're just going to call Noise. Okay, so we're going to add some kind of a grain. This one is actually called Noise. I'm going to drag Noise onto there, and I'm going to put the value amount of noise all the way to the top. Let's just all the way to 100 so that you can see it. And then I'm going to press T on my keyboard, and I'm going to put my transparency down because I really just want a subtle one. It's probably not even going to be seen in the recording due to my MP4 compression. But we're just going to put it down to, I don't know, anywhere between 17 and maybe 7. And now you've got that film grain, you've got that boil on it, and then you've also got your frame rate reduction, which will just give it this more tactile hand drawing feeling. So my next approach is I want to approach how I'm gonna do the header skiing in France. Now I like that textured look that we've given here, but for here I want to do the same thing, but I also want the letters to feel like they're moving around, floating a little bit more, and I also want them to scale from left to right, letter by letter. So I'll show you how I approach this. I'm just gonna solo just that one frame, and I will press S on my keyboard and press drop in a keyframe, and I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm just holding Control and arrow right to go 5 keyframes. I'm going to drop a keyframe, and then I'm going to Control Shift right, and that should give me 10 keyframes forward. So 5 and then 10, right? And then I'm just going to zoom in this, press plus on my keyboard, and press F9 on my keyboard. That's going to give these keyframe an easy ease. I'm then going to press on my first keyframe and put that down to, you know what, let's just put it down to about 10. As I said before, it'd be nicer, actually maybe even 50. Yeah, okay, so there's actually, you're seeing a keyframe, at least something on the first keyframe. Then I'm going to select them all, and I'm going to press on my curve editor, plus on my keyboard to zoom in, and I'm going to press this little arc here, convert selected keyframes to auto bezier, and that will make it slightly higher there so that when it scales up it pops up. And I'm just going to turn the little corner here to make that faster, so it should go bam. Still feel like it could be much higher, so I'm going to make this higher. Boom. Boom. Feel like that can be higher still. Boom. Boom. Okay, so I'm cool with that. Press U back on my keyboard. Oh wait, turn this back off on the graph editor. U on my keyboard, and I'm going to press on my scale Control C. I'm going to select the other keyframes with holding Shift, and then just click from top to bottom and press Control V. And if I press U on my keyboard now, I've copied and pasted those scale keyframes and everything. So now, if I unsolarize this, everything is going to scale on in one go. And all I need to now do is to move these keyframes forward like this to offset that animation. Okay, so now you should see skiing is offset. If I just press, yeah, I'm going to move them forward to there. Okay, and then I'm going to offset in's coming next after skiing, and then I'm going to offset the France. So it's literally just one keyframe forward, and then take the France as a whole, which I've got in the color pink or fuchsia, and move this forward. So now you've got skiing in France. Skiing in France. I could probably move up the word France just a little bit further. Let's try that again. I kind of feel like that needs to be maybe there. Skiing in France. Brilliant. I'm happy with that. Okay, so now the next thing I want to do is I want these letters to kind of float and wobble. So I can do that by pressing P on my keyboard or my S. Alt click on the position and type in wiggle 5,5. And now that S should go wee, and it's floating around, which feels really nice. And I'm just going to copy and paste that exact same value onto everything. So Control C on my keyboard, and then select all my other ones and press Apple V. and press EE on my keyboard, and you should see now that that wiggle script has been pasted everywhere. So I don't know if you noticed when I say UU to kind of show all the properties on my layer, but if I want to see all my scripts that I've written, my expressions, I actually I press EE instead. Okay, so if I press UU again, it'll close it up again. Now let's see how this works. Okay, now the mistake I made here is I pasted that positional value when I actually should have pasted the script value. So I'm going to press Apple Z. So I'm going to click on that positional value, and instead of saying Apple C, Apple V, I'm just going to right click and say copy expression only. Now I'm going to select all these values once again and press Apple Control V. Okay, now if I press EE on the keyboard, the expressions are there, but it hasn't changed the positional values of all my other letters. So that should be right now. Nice. Now I still feel like France could be benefit from coming a little bit further forward after in. Skiing in France. Skiing in France. Perfect. And then I just make sure that this header goes below all of those, the noise, boil, and frames. Boom. Cool. So the next thing I would like to do is just to add a little bit of like a film footage type of grain over this to really date it. So I can go layer, new, solid, and just choose a black solid, and I can use Andrew Kramer from Video Copilot's favorite effect is a fractal noise. I'm going to drop that on there, and I'm going to put the contrast nice and high and the brightness low, just until you've got a couple of speckles on the screen. Okay, and then I'm going to press get invert, and I'm going to add an invert effects preset on top of this, and this should invert the black and the white. So now you've got these speckles, and then I'm going to go into my evolution options. It's just below evolution, and I'm going to go to random seed. I'm going to press alt click on the random seed, and I'm going to paste in this script random open brackets, close brackets, asterisk 100, and that should just give you random seeds of that animation. The next thing you could do is set it to multiply, so you can see your animation below it. There we go, that's looking great. And if you're not happy with the amount of speckles, you can just keep adjusting this contrast and this brightness. So if I just pull the brightness down a bit and maybe the contrast up or down, you can just lessen those speckles, so you can just about see those speckles popping up over the screen. Or you can just put it right back in again and add some more speckles in there. Whatever suits until you get that. See, that's definitely not. So press that Z, go back to the original one. But there we go. So we got a nice bunch of dust scratches on your screen as well. Right, and moving forward now, I've just added a couple of extras. So in the poster, they had this, what looked like these lines of a ski slope. Same technique as I did before, the same thing with these little paths drawing in the top. It's just your trim paths on a stroke like I taught you before with the ski treads. And let's show you the final result. Right, so I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. If you did, please like, share, subscribe, as I'd hugely appreciate it. Now on a more important note, recently at our church we had Emma from Open Doors come explain the conflict currently going on in Nigeria, where many Christians are being persecuted and forced from their homes. It's absolutely horrendous. I would like to share this video with you and encourage you to sign a petition to help them and to possibly donate. And I'll be sure to put the links in my description so you can support. Thank you so much. Bye.
Let me tell you, here where we are, millions of Christians are displaced. Here in Nigeria, millions of Christians are displaced in the whole Africa. News don't carry it. Politicians, they don't talk about it. Government don't talk about it. Nobody talks about it. We are remaining in the darkness, as if we are being rejected, as if God don't even know the reason why he created us. We don't even know where we are.
This is where we live, in IDP camp, for 4 years, getting to 5 years now. Each and every one you are seeing here, we are all Christians, and we are displaced because of violence. You are seeing most of them are women here now. Most of the men, they have gone out looking for what to do in order to get a daily food, but yet it will not be enough for a meal for a day. And this hunger leads many of them where they went in search of food to eat, and they are being attacked by the militants. They have no option. They have to go back there again, and when going back there, they still attack again. They run away. Here is my house. 3 of them stayed here with me and my wife. Then the rest of the children join up my neighbor to stay when it's night. When day breaks, they comes back and meet with me, stay with me as parents. This is cupboard that we use it, the roofing, preventing sun from preventing us from sun. As you can take a look at this tent here is from here to this place is 1.5 meters. From here to here is 1.5 meters. From here to here is 1.5 meters. It's smaller than a double mattress.
We believe that they are against Christians. When they come to attack us, they call us Kapiri, that we don't have any religion. So that makes us to understand that they are purely attacking Christians. I was in the farm with my brother and my late brother's wife. We were walking. When we heard a rapid shooting, gun sounds, we could not know what was happening. It's from there we began to ask what is happening. They said we should run, we should run. It was during this time that my brother was being shot and killed by the militants. And my brother's wife was also shot and being macheted and killed by the militants who attacked us.
In this camp here, many people are affected, many are injured, many are killed. The loved ones are killed. Praise the Lord.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, God bless you all.
Amen.
As we can see, this is church. I'm a pastor, and this well, the people I pastor them. They are here because the sun is too high, The temperature is too hot, and that's the reason why this place is a shed. So they have to sit inside to rest. As you can take a look of it, there's no trampoline on it, and there's nothing good that you can be able to stay on it. But we manage this because we have a small shed that we can be able to stay inside, hoping that tomorrow will be good. It's low in the hand. Ka say rume num no dina se. Alo we num so dina shafta because the cheese of kadesha niggas nigga nan. Can it chi num dina nega. If you can never shas niggas. Chad nechi can never find out zaman yonga. When you're hungry, you will lose your confidence from God. When you're sick, you will lose your confidence from God. Their mind has been discouraged from God. And being as a pastor in the camp, me too, I'm displaced. I don't have anything to give them. We only pray together and share the word of God together. I lack words. So far, our eyes is on Him. So far, our hope is on Him. We put our confidence on Him. We believe He's great. He will do it more than what we have not even expected. Yes, what object? What that is it? Network doga mo uga do kya pete yo haji jeje swama.
Oh, thank you, sir.